Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerds of the Round Table, a show where we find and discuss the nerdiest news from the last week. My name's Jack, and I'm here with my older brother and OG gamer, Paul. And we'll start this week the way we always do. Hey Paul, what have you been up to?
Hey Jack. So I have been actually playing a couple different games, but more recently I've actually picked back up an iPhone MFI controller that I had.
Okay, I'm going to need you to explain what an MFI is, because I've never heard that sequence of letters before.
It's made for iPhone.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's just basically, an Apple-approved controller.
Mm-hmm.
And this one actually attaches to either end of your iPhone and makes your... the closest thing that I can describe it is it makes your iPhone look like a Switch.
Okay, so it kind of cradles the whole business and makes it a usable gaming platform.
Yeah, and it's it's called a Game Vice, and it's pretty cool. The reason that I went back to checking it out is you can download the Moonlight app on the iPhone.
Like the movie?
And no, Moonlight. No, it's not like that at all.
No, pretty much the opposite.
So Moonlight is a NVIDIA game stream client for the iPhone. So basically, let's roll that back and say, if you've got an NVIDIA Shield, it lets you play games from your PC on your TV, right? It streams games from your PC with an NVIDIA card to the NVIDIA Shield, and you can play it on your TV.
Right,
well,
yeah.
These people made an open source client for that called Moonlight, and you can put it on your iPhone. And so now, basically, you can stream games from your PC to your iPhone, and using a controller, you can control the games just as you would using a PS4, or more specifically, the remote play for the PS4.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, so what games? Yeah, what games have you been playing?
Well, yeah, so, I tried it out with some simple ones like Binding of Isaac.
Very good.
And Watch Dogs 2 played really well. And Deus Ex Mankind Divided as well.
Also a very good game. Yeah. I'm happy with your choices. Well, I'm glad you came with games to talk about, because frankly, I've been playing Rocket League, which is a game that I've talked to death in the past, and I've been playing No Man's Sky, which I couldn't even explain to you why I've picked that game up again. I just had this weird craving, and I'm happy to say...
Probably because you were jealous of the people who were playing Astroneer.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, like, it's we've talked about it before, like, it's the type of game that I wanted more than anything else, and they just kind of started sprinting and then fell flat on their faces.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's pretty satisfying to play it post-update. Like, they kind of fixed some parts of it. And
now this is the Foundation update? Is that the one?
Yeah, the Foundation update, where they actually added gameplay. And it's been good, but, like, I'm in a holding pattern right now. I'm waiting for something. I'm waiting for the next thing to come across my path. I think there's some games coming out later in the month or in March that I'm pretty excited about, and like even games.
Which ones in particular?
Well, I'm pretty excited about Nioh. I'm pretty excited about Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are probably the two on the horizon that I'm very excited about. But
okay.
Yeah, it's just like I'm just waiting around for these games to come out.
Man, So here's a little tidbit. I've listened to every show that you guys have done up to this point.
Okay.
And so more recently, you guys have had the same list of games that you've been playing for a while, which I appreciate your your commitment to playing those games. But the what are you playing now? Seems like Seems like it needs an update. So
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that I play slightly different games than you do. So,
yeah.
Or at least I've been playing them more recently.
It's very good because, frankly, like, I'm tired of talking about the same games over and over again, which is why instead of games to talk about this week, I've brought an anecdote about how much I hate living in an apartment now. And I haven't hated it at all until this very evening, when I went to go put laundry in, and like I've never seen another human being in the laundry room in my apartment.
Right.
But like this time, like I saw 2 people down there and they put their laundry in, and I was like, okay, I'll come back in about like a half hour or so. They'll be like mostly done with this stuff.
No.
And I come back. Yeah, I come back and I drop all the stuff in the washing machine, which has like a 28-minute cycle. And I come back after it's supposed to be done. And these people, their laundry, I did the math because I wanted to know precisely how mad I was allowed to be. These people were like 25 minutes late coming back to get their dry laundry. And I wanted to go knock on every single door at the apartment and just be like, is this your shit? Is this your shit? Can you come get your shit?
How many units are in there?
Like 6. Like there's not even that many people here.
You know what you should do is put the stuff in a basket and put your stuff in there.
I thought about it, but like I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to I don't want to. First of all, I don't want to touch anyone else's shit. And I don't want to handle anyone else's laundry. There's something very gross to me about that. So what I did instead was much more. It's pretty pitiful. If you looked around my apartment right now, you would see socks, shirts, like underwear, literally hanging on every available surface. Just kind of air drying.
That's so much more, basically clean than just moving somebody else's dry laundry somewhere else.
I mean, at least like it was washed. I did the thing, but whatever. I'll sort that out later. But what do you say we get into some of the stories we got to do this week?
Sure. Yeah. That sounds good to me.
Okay. So what we've got first is The Last Guardian is getting a $20 price cut, and apparently it's permanent. Now I'm picking this story up from Polygon, and Polygon had a very favorable review of The Last Guardian. So this is kind of like they're being like, hey, go get this right away. But it seems The Last Guardian had like a weird reaction. I don't know if you heard anything about how it was received.
I did. It's a little early for a price break like this. That's for sure. But
it does seem weird, right?
Yeah, but then again, like the game, people had huge expectations for the game, and reviewers, it seemed like they really wanted to like it, and so I don't know, maybe you had a different impression, but the impression I got was that reviewers really wanted to like the game, and it sounds like many of them did, but that it wasn't quite the blockbuster that they were hoping for.
Certainly not. I think Sony, despite positive... I went and I looked, and the Metacritic puts this game around like 80 or 85, which is like generally pretty favorable. But I don't think it was good enough to kind of light the world on fire. I don't think it picked up a lot in the community. And that's, there was a huge group of people that were very excited about this game when it was announced like 10 years ago. And,
right.
Slowly you lose people along the way. And I don't know if, it finally coming out is a big enough deal to get all of those people back on board. And from what I can tell, what the reviews say and what people have been saying about the game is that it is a game with a great story, and it looks, fairly pretty, but it plays like a game from last generation, ostensibly like when it was started, like when the project was actually started. It seems like the gameplay that was released, it might as well have been from 10 years ago. Yeah. In terms of like the controls and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of like if you are hoping that fans from 10 years ago are going to be enough to generate great sales for a game nowadays, that is wishful thinking.
Absolutely.
I mean, those gamers may stay as gamers, but you've also got to consider a lot of people who have just kind of joined console gaming, for example, in the last 10 years. And if you look at those people who have just joined console gaming in the last 10 years, they may not be buying all of their own games. And so when you have a game that comes out at the beginning of December, after people's parents have bought all the kids' video games during Black Friday sales for Thanksgiving,
yep,
you're a couple weeks too late, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if nothing else, this is representative of Sony seeing and acknowledging this problem. I mean, they know that they kind of goofed it up, or that somebody along the way, messed this up, because first-party games do not get price drops within like a month or two of release. That almost shouldn't happen. And I think if there's nothing else you take away from this, they are trying to recoup really poor sales. They're trying to recover from really poor sales.
Sure.
Or maybe not even poor sales, but sales well below their expectations, especially with the amount of money that you assume was invested over the course of, 10 years. Keeping a studio afloat that long for the sake of like one game is not cheap.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be telling when and if we hear about that studio, getting more games in the near future to start working on.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder what the future of it could be.
Yeah.
But why don't we move on to the next topic? Along this,
Sure.
In the same family as Sony, they are releasing a software update pretty soon. I think I haven't gotten the exact date, but it's software update 4.5, and it's going to add a few. I mean, nothing quite as game changing as the major shifts that you've seen across like how the display is on PS4 with not the notification bars, like the pop-up menus and everything like that. That seemed like a pretty big deal when it happened. This is just some simple stuff that I think people have probably wanted for a long time. So the first thing is external hard drive support.
And specifically things that people have seen Xbox do.
Yes.
And this is basically all the stuff that Xbox already does, if I'm not mistaken.
For the most part, I don't know. I don't know about the custom wallpapers part, but the fact that you can finally use an external hard drive, that's a big deal, obviously, because it means you don't have to swap out the entire hard drive in your PS4 if you want expanded memory. You know more about the Xbox infrastructure, setup than I do. Is custom wallpapers a thing that's already there?
Yeah, you can choose any image from your Microsoft Photos library, I believe, to set as your background image.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something they're planning on doing, especially with how much they've emphasized like sharing and taking screenshots and taking videos and everything like that. And it seems like they are also adding a quick menu refresh. I think it's what they're trying to do is make that quick menu that they added in the last update just a little bit more usable, and it'll take up less of the screen. You'll be able to access handy party features and all these things that they tout on the website.
Have you seen the Microsoft one for Xbox?
No, I have not.
It looks very similar, and in fact, really? the creator update, or I guess the more recent beta Windows or Xbox Insider preview updates, they are looking both very similar to each other at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
side menu on the side with quick actions and things like that.
I think there is something to everyone kind of agreeing on a common best practice for stuff like this. Seeing the way people want to interact with their games and how they want their. It's kind of like if you're trying to make a usable, attractive sidebar. There's only so many ways you can do it. I think that probably would end up looking the same. And I think Sony is probably learning from, especially with this update, they're learning from Microsoft on the software side, and basically OS.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the operating system.
Yeah, I think they're learning essentially from Microsoft in that respect, while Microsoft had to learn earlier in the generation from Sony's kind of community building and focus on games and everything like that. So I think both companies had something to learn from each other there. I wouldn't. It's been clear that like a lot of Microsoft's like UI and everything like that has not been strong early in the generation, but I wonder if they're. I'm sure that's been a focus for them for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say two things about that. One is Microsoft had a different focus, trying to be the all-in-one place for entertainment on your TV. And while I think it was a good idea, because I bought an Xbox One and I still use it, it seems like the market did not think that was a great idea. So Microsoft had to spend a lot of time trying to refocus things on the gamer and performance and community. And I think that refocusing actually helped them a lot. And you could see that in the sales numbers. They improved for sure. They're still far behind Sony, but they improved. And I think Sony kind of sat on their hands for a long while with their updates to their system, and now they're starting to move a little too because they see the pressure as well. And so it's good. I mean, the point is, it's good to see this kind of competition, and it's very much like the smartphone market. You start to see, you start to hear more of, they stole this feature from them, or these guys stole this feature from someone else. And the reality is it's competition going back and forth, trying to optimize their systems for the best experience for people. And these things will look similar at times and look different at other times, but in the end, it ends up being good competition, and hopefully the consumer is the beneficiary of all that.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it'll drive everyone forward to ideally offer a much better experience for everyone. So, this is a good update. They're also adding 3D Blu-rays on PSVR, which is a thing for some people, I guess, and some other network activity stuff, which is less exciting, but improvement. But now, in terms of improvements, let's see someone who's going in the absolute opposite direction. GameStop has had some issues recently with some of their employees going to Kotaku or talking on other places, like on the internet, basically, about how their new business practices and what they're encouraging their in-store workers to do essentially leads their employees to lie to customers. GameStop is heavily focused on the used game market. They make virtually no money off of selling new hardware and new software. It just doesn't really net them anything. So they're depending on people coming to their store, buying new stuff, and then selling it back to them as a used game, which they can sell it then double the price to the next customer who walks through the door. But the issue in question is that GameStop is now coming down pretty hard on their employees for making sure that a certain percentage of the sales done through the store are used game only. So some GameStop employees have reported being encouraged to lie to customers and tell them that they don't have a new game in stock or don't have a new system in stock, instead encouraging them to buy a used copy. So how does that strike you?
Well, I mean, it sounds pretty self-defeating to me, because if you're turning away customers saying you don't have a new system, they'll just go buy it somewhere else. I don't know that it will necessarily convince someone who... I mean, if you're going to GameStop, they sell new and used systems. So if you go in there and you're looking for a new system and they say they don't have it, then you're just going to go somewhere else and buy it.
Yeah, screw them, right? I mean, it's kind of there's Amazon. If nothing else, there's still Amazon. If you have to wait 2 days to get something from Amazon, so be it. You'll get your new thing.
Yeah. I mean, and think about all the places that are... I'm not about to, be an advertiser for all the other retail locations you can go to, but almost without fail, there's another big box electronics retailer within a 10 or 15 mile drive of GameStop.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if nothing else, this is a story we've been commenting on, from Knerds, because originally, with me, Sean, and Fred, we all started in GameStop, so we like to keep an eye on what's been going on there. And it's one of those things where you see them on this kind of slow decline for a long period, and whether it's their business fading away or their business practices becoming shadier, it seems to be another... I don't want to... Well, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Another nail in the coffin Their best bet at this point is something that we had talked about recently as well. They're publishing. They want to get into publishing, which ideally could keep them afloat for as long as any other game publisher. But I don't know if retail is still going to be in the future for GameStop ultimately.
Yeah, well, one of the interesting. Well, all right. Let me just start by saying I have gone into a GameStop. You can count the number of times on one hand since I sold them a semi kind of working PS2 about 2 decades ago. So,
fair enough.
And I don't know if it was fear for walking back into one of those stores and them calling me out on the damn thing not working anymore. But it's been a while, and it's just because there are so many other options, and you don't feel like. You go to some place like Best Buy, and you almost have to search the store to find someone to help you out if you need help. Whereas with GameStop, you feel kind of this pressure to buy a subscription or you buy a rewards card. That's what I mean. Pre-order something, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean you're absolutely right. They're gonna ask you, and as someone who was part of that system a while back, like they're gonna ask you every single transaction if they're doing their job right, to like get the Power Up rewards card, to get the credit card, to get the pre-order, and it's very much the whole business is predicated on that, and that's just not the gaming market anymore. It's just not. Yeah. It's a holdover from an ecosystem from 10 years ago. It's just not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, well, and that's I think that's probably what it is. It stems from the fact that I really don't like pre-orders.
Mm-hmm.
And so to have a company like GameStop, push them so hard is a real turnoff for me anyway. So
I mean, if there's one thing that's going to keep GameStop in business, it's that publishers and console manufacturers need them to sell that hardware initially, because online marketplaces just aren't the bulk of sales yet. And so, I mean, with that in mind, there's some new hardware coming out early next month, and that's the Nintendo Switch.
That sounds like a topic transition.
It is a topic transition.
Well done.
Yes, very good. Now, Fred and I have talked about Nintendo Switch in the past, but if you could give, a relatively short, see if you can contain yourself, your opinions on the Switch, where do you fall on that topic right now?
I don't like it. Is that short enough for you?
I'll give you another 30 seconds if you want it.
Okay. Well, look, so I think, if you're looking at the pre-announcement that came out late last year and what they were teasing, it seemed pretty clear to me that what they're selling is a tablet and a dock to put it in to kind of basically overclock what's already in there, right?
Yeah.
So and NVIDIA, who makes the Tegra chip that is in the Switch, they have their own tablet too, right? So they're basically reusing that architecture, putting their software on it, their UI, their the operating system that we talked about before, and their games on it. And there was some speculation about what the dock would do before. My opinion then, and I think it's still the same now, is that basically the chip and the video card that are in the Switch are basically underpowered.
Yeah.
And they can run games for 2.5 to 6 hours on that hardware at, what was it, 720p? Was it?
Yeah, 720p, which on a screen that small is not that big of a deal, but at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's okay. But, it's going to certainly limit the types of games you can put on that hardware.
Exactly.
And then when you plug it into the dock, it basically goes, oh, I'm plugged in now. Now I'll spin the CPU and spin the video card up to full speed, and that'll let us get, slightly higher resolution on the TV, right? It's like 900p or something.
Yeah, that'll get us to almost modern console standards.
In terms of resolution.
Yes,
but not
exactly,
necessarily in terms of power.
Yeah, which is exactly the point I'm trying to make is that like even in its greatest power, even at its most capable, it is still not quite what we would consider like a modern video game console.
It's basically like taking. It's basically like an iPad. Is basically what it is, with some controls.
Sure.
And expensive ones at that.
Very expensive. Yeah, right. And like I don't know, it's frustrating. Anyway, that wasn't it's not what we're trying to focus on right now. They have shown off their Super Bowl commercial.
Oh, do they have Madden on the Switch?
So EA announced some support, but nothing specific, nothing so specific as like they said that FIFA was coming, but not really much else. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're just trying to get the message out there to as many people who will listen as possible. But like, you know, I'm scrubbing through the video right now, the commercial right now.
Oh, for the Super Bowl commercial?
Yeah, the Super Bowl commercial for the Switch. And it's full of, you know, beautiful people playing these Nintendo games, which like look great on their system. But it's like, I don't think it's at all representative of like how people will actually use this system. I don't think you're going to get people in the library, like a whole bunch of cool college students, like sitting around in the library, all four people playing on one tiny screen, you know, sure. or everyone bringing their own Nintendo Switch to come hang out together. Like, I just don't think that's how humans interact with each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'll say this. You know, if they can, I think the one cool thing that they're doing, I'll give them some credit, is trying to bring back the split screen multiplayer that this generation and even the last generation kind of abandoned, except for a few cases.
Yeah, if a game has multiplayer that you can play on the couch next to someone now, it's an oddity, not, you know, one of the more common things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look at the, you know, part of the commercial has someone playing with the Pro controller, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've got, you know, the Switch set up with the little kickstand and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing when I had originally purchased that iPhone controller.
Yeah.
I wanted it to function like the Vita or like, you know, the Switch in tablet mode, because I want it connected and I want it to be able to keep the controls as close to the screen as possible.
Right.
So I really don't like the thought of, you know, propping up the Switch on a table somewhere and using a completely detached controller to control it. It just feels a little too disconnected on a small screen. It just doesn't play well for me anyway.
Yeah, and like I don't know, we don't need to analyze this too much further, but like like in an effort to try and remain fair, I'm trying to be like, I don't think this product was meant for me in the first place. You know what I mean? Like I look at this and like I don't commute, I play video games in my apartment. Like I play video games at home. I was on a plane ride earlier this week and I brought my 3DS with me in case I wanted to like play some Pokemon, and I just watched a movie on the plane, or I was like scrolling through, you know, like other stuff on my phone. I don't think this is how I would ever play games. So to me, I can really only judge it as kind of a home console. And, you know, as we discussed earlier, it's pretty lacking in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's slightly too big to be portable. You know, It's not something I'm going to break out on the subway if I ever took the subway or even the train.
Yeah.
You know, I can see using it on a plane, but then again, when I fly for work, I'm either flying from San Francisco to New York or San Francisco to Dublin, Ireland, and I'd get about, you know, I'd barely get out of California before the battery died on this thing.
Yeah, you'd need to have a setup where you could plug it in, which I think it's supposed to have a USB charging port on it so you can charge it in the portable mode. But, you know, even then, like, are you sitting next to people that you know? Are you going to get weird looks from the dude next to you? because you brought your video game system on the plane. Like, maybe I'm insecure, but I feel like I would feel a little weird about that.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
But anyway, in other Nintendo news, the Nintendo president Kimishima told Nikkei, which is this big media outlet in Japan, that the Switch's online service will be priced in Japan at 2,000 to 3,000 yen, which in terms of US dollars is about $1,750 to $25 yearly, which yearly, which means that it's cheaper than anything else, any other online service on the market. But at the same time, we didn't really get into discussions of the online component of the Nintendo Switch.
Right.
That's also kind of weak in comparison to the offerings of Xbox and PlayStation. But do you think?
So what do you think of it?
I mean, I think this price actually does justify precisely what they're giving you. I think if Nintendo was charging any more than this from what we can assume they will be giving, then it would be absurd, because you can't expect a robust online ecosystem from Nintendo. I don't even know if there's going to be unified accounts across their different systems, and you don't the free game that they're giving you don't actually get to keep. I think I still think that the online ecosystem is weak, but I do think that it is appropriately priced. If that makes any sense.
It makes sense. I mean, when I see something priced like that, given what the competition is charging per year, you can complain all you want about Sony and Microsoft and what they're charging for their online services, and I do complain about it, but
sure.
But it really does make you question. I mean, it makes you think. But Nintendo doesn't even see their online service as being that strong. In fact, they must see it at roughly half as strong as Sony or Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, there is something to pricing your product at something that suggests value. It's kind of a problem that games that try and release at lower than $60 run into, even if they are providing a product that might be better than the next AAA $60 game. The fact that they are priced at lower than $60 can sometimes make a game look like it's a budget game or something like that. If you think about Ratchet and Clank, which was a remake that I loved, was priced at $40. Someone walking into the store might be like, "Oh, this is one of those budget games. This is not your Call of Duty. This is not some big blockbuster. It's like a budget title." And it's something that indie games had to combat for a long time, was that concept of value. I think that a lot of indie games that have come out, at least the good ones, are probably priced far less than they would deserve to be if they were priced at quality or something like that. But
well, I mean, so here's the thing: games are going to be priced at whatever the publisher thinks is going to make them the most amount of money,
sure.
Right? And so there are two components that go into it: their faith in how good the game is, and how strong is the brand or the the title as a household name. So you look at something like Call of Duty, they can charge $60 every year for a Call of Duty game, even though the games are mediocre.
Sure.
In my opinion.
I was gonna say, right? We don't necessarily.
But some people love them. But I'm going to call the games mediocre.
Oh, I agree with you.
Do they regularly get over 9.0? Nowadays?
I mean, some of them do pretty well, but I work for my boss is a Call of Duty fanatic, and he only stuck with this game a couple months before going back to the previous one because he liked it more. So they're not. I wouldn't say they're consistent.
Right, but they can always charge the same price every year because the brand is worth it. The title Call of Duty is enough to get people to come back, and indie titles don't have that. They don't have the name recognition.
Absolutely.
And the publisher just kind of goes, well, maybe a great game, but we can't guarantee that. And you would think that digital distribution nowadays would lower